They didn't just say no. They took Grandma's birthday cake, marched to the curb, and slammed it into the trash can like she was the garbage. I hit record on my phone, hands shaking. Because when you realize your family has crossed a line that can't be uncrossed, you need proof. You need something to remind yourself later that it really happened. That it wasn't just a nightmare wrapped in candlelight. The night had started like any ordinary family gathering in our quiet, suburban house, the kind where every smile hides something unsaid. A crooked banner drooped over the dining room, happy 82nd dot. Balloons clung weakly to the ceiling. The table was set with paper plates, plastic forks, and a store-bought chocolate cake that Grandma had picked out herself. She'd been so proud of it. Triple fudge with buttercream, my favorite since '63, she'd said earlier, voice trembling but hopeful. She'd even asked me to light the candles. But now, Mom's voice was sharp as glass. No sugar. Doctor's orders, Grandma blinked. That cake has my name on it. It had your name, Dad said flatly, pressing the trash can lid down like he was burying something. The smell of vanilla and humiliation filled the air. My stomach twisted as I watched frosting smear against the black plastic. Grandma's wrinkled hands hovered over the empty plate, shaking. She didn't cry. She just looked smaller, like each breath took a piece of her with it. Outside, the neighbor's porch light flicked on. Somewhere, a Ring camera was catching all of this. Somewhere, the internet was waiting for another viral tragedy about family gone wrong. Mom straightened the tablecloth. Tomorrow we'll take her to Brookside Living. It's time. Her tone was businesslike, emotionless. Grandma's voice cracked. You can't just... Dad cut her off. We already signed the paperwork. It's for your own good, Mom. You're not safe here alone. I'm not alone, she said weakly, looking at me. Mom followed her gaze and smiled, cold and thin. Oh, honey, don't drag him into this. He's barely keeping his own life together. That's when I felt it. The room spinning, my throat tightening. I'd heard whispers for months about moving Grandma and listing the property, but I never thought they'd actually go through with it. You signed what? I asked, voice trembling. Dad didn't even flinch. Power of attorney. It's done. Show me the papers. Mom snapped. Stay out of this. You don't know what's best for her. I took a step closer. You're stealing from her. Recording again, are you? She sneered. Go ahead. Maybe the internet will finally make you famous for something. The air in the room thickened, heavy with tension, money, and something darker. Grandma looked from me to them, lips quivering. You took my house, she whispered. You took my home, Dad sighed. We're trying to help you. You can't manage things anymore. The roof's falling apart. The taxes... Stop pretending you care about taxes, I snapped. You care about equity. Then it happened. Headlights swept across the blinds, flooding the room in white. A car door slammed outside. Dad frowned. Who the hell is that? Through the window, I saw a sleek black SUV roll to a stop by the curb. The driver stepped out wearing a long gray coat, the kind you only see in movies about prosecutors or CEOs. Every movement screamed power and precision. Mom crossed her arms. Probably a delivery. The front door opened before anyone could answer. A woman stepped in. Late 50s, pearl earrings, posture like a verdict. She didn't knock. She didn't ask. She just walked in like the air belonged to her. Dorothy Hawthorne? Her voice carried the kind of calm that makes people panic. Grandma blinked. Yes? The woman's expression softened, just for a heartbeat. It's Evelyn Hale. I promised I'd be here if they ever tried this. Every fork froze. Every heartbeat in that room felt counted. Mom's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Who are you? Evelyn set a blue leather folder on the table, smooth as silk. The only person in this house with the real papers. Dad laughed nervously. What's this, some scam? Are you selling elder protection plans now? Evelyn's lips curved, not into a smile but something sharper. No, I'm here to execute one. The silence that followed was brutal. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to stop. Grandma's eyes filled, and for the first time that night, she looked like she believed something good might still happen. Mom stepped forward, voice trembling between anger and fear. You can't just barge into our home. Evelyn didn't blink. Your home? I think that's up for debate. She turned to Grandma. May I sit? Grandma nodded faintly. Evelyn pulled out a chair, sat with elegant precision, and opened the folder. Inside were documents thick with seals and signatures. You don't know me, Dorothy, but you saved my life once. A motel fire, 1978. You carried me out through the window. My mother didn't make it, but you... Her voice caught for the first time. You stayed until the ambulance came. I watched my parents' faces shift, confusion, then recognition, then panic. Evelyn regained composure, eyes hardening again. You didn't know she had friends in high places, did you? I made a promise that night. If anyone ever tried to take advantage of her, I'd be there. Dad scoffed, but his voice wavered. You can't be serious. I'm very serious, Evelyn said, sliding a paper toward him. You forged her signature on a transfer authorization, and you used an outdated medical report to justify it. That's fraud and elder coercion. Mom's voice turned shrill. You can't prove anything, Evelyn smiled. I already did. She nodded toward me. You've been recording, right? Good, keep it rolling. Grandma looked at her with tears spilling freely now. I thought I was alone. Evelyn squeezed her hand gently. You're not. Not anymore. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering the pieces of the ruined birthday banner. Inside, no one spoke. My mom's hands trembled as she backed away from the table. Dad just stared at the folder like it was a live bomb. Then Evelyn closed it softly, stood, and said the words that shattered the room. This house, this trust, this life, everything changes tonight. And before anyone could answer, she turned toward the door, her phone already in her hand, calling someone who was clearly waiting. The last thing I heard before the screen door slammed shut was her saying calmly, "Yes, execute the plan." They made their move, and that's when I knew whatever had just started wasn't ending quietly. Step away from my mother! Evelyn's voice cut through the room like a blade of ice. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to retreat. Dad froze mid-reach, his fingers hovering over the blue leather folder on the table. Evelyn didn't flinch. She tapped the folder once, perfectly manicured nail glinting in the light. Touch it, she said, calm but deadly, and I call the district attorney. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Mom let out a shaky laugh, the kind that hides panic. This is ridiculous. You can't just walk into our home and throw around legal words. Evelyn opened the folder with surgical precision. Inside were pages with gold seals and embossed stamps that looked older than my entire life. Dorothy Hawthorne Irrevocable Living Trust, she read aloud. Executed 2012. Durable power of attorney. Revoked in 2015 after suspicious influence by two individuals, Martin and Elaine Brooks. She paused, her gaze slicing toward my parents. Those names ring a bell? Mom's laughter faltered. Nice try. My mother doesn't have a trust. She's broke. Evelyn raised an eyebrow so slightly it felt like judgment itself. Broke people don't receive annual K-1 statements from Hale and Merritt Capital. But I suppose you already knew that, since the statements stopped arriving once her mail started rerouting to your address. Grandma looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. Hale? She whispered, voice trembling. Like the diner fire? For the first time, Evelyn's steel softened. You remember, she said quietly. You pulled a stranger out of that burning motel in 1978. That stranger was me. The air changed. My parents exchanged a look, part confusion, part fear. Dad tried to regain control. All right, Ms. Hale, or whoever you are, you've made your dramatic entrance, but we've already listed the house. The paperwork's in progress. Evelyn didn't blink. She reached into her folder again and slid a single page across the table. The heading read, Cease and Desist, Evergreen Realty, dated this morning. No, she said evenly. You didn't. Mom snatched the paper, scanning it so fast her hands trembled. You can't do this. I can, Evelyn replied. And I already did, she turned to me. You're recording, right? My thumb hovered over the phone screen. Yeah, good, she said, meeting my eyes. Chapter 825 of the Texas Health and Safety Code doesn't love cakes and trash. Symbolic cruelty is still cruelty when it targets a dependent elder. That footage could help more than you realize, Mom snapped, voice rising. Enough of this nonsense. Get out! Evelyn didn't move. She pointed toward the front window where another black SUV idled, headlights spilling gold across the driveway. My investigator has been tracking your family's transactions for 6 months. Venmo transfers labeled church donation, conveniently matching withdrawals from Dorothy's pension account. Care to explain that coincidence? Dad's face went pale. You have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I do, Evelyn said. And so will the Attorney General if you don't cooperate tonight. Grandma's breathing hitched. You knew they were taking my money? She whispered, her eyes flicking between me and Evelyn. I suspected, Evelyn said gently. Now I know. She closed the folder with a deliberate snap. Here's what happens next. We're going to the bank. Safety deposit box 119. You'll all come with me. We'll unlock it together on record. Mom scoffed. We're not going anywhere with you. Evelyn smiled without warmth. Then I send this entire file to Adult Protective Services and the State Fraud Division in 10 minutes. It's your call. Dad slammed his hand against the table. This is harassment. Evelyn didn't even blink. It's accountability. The driver stepped inside, a quiet, broad-shouldered man in a dark suit. He said nothing, just held up a small steel key on a chain. Evelyn nodded toward it. This, she said, opens the truth. Grandma pushed herself shakily to her feet, voice trembling but firm. If there's something in that box, I want to see it. Tonight. Mom grabbed her arm. You're tired. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Evelyn stepped between them, her tone suddenly fierce. She knows exactly what she's agreeing to. For once, she's choosing herself. I looked at Grandma. Frail, yes, but her eyes had life again. Fire. Something I hadn't seen in years. Let's go, she whispered. Dad hesitated. You can't just... Evelyn pulled her phone from her coat pocket. I can. And if I hit send, this footage goes straight to 3 prosecutors and 1 journalist who loves stories about elder abuse. That shut him up. We gathered our coats in silence. The air outside was cold, sharp. The night smelled like rain and fear. The SUV door opened automatically as we approached, leather seats glowing in the cabin light. Grandma slid in first, Evelyn following. My parents exchanged a look that said everything. They weren't in control anymore. I sat beside Grandma, my phone still recording, the blue folder clutched against my chest like a relic. Evelyn's driver started the engine. Where's the bank? I asked quietly. Downtown, Evelyn replied. They're expecting us. Mom leaned forward from the back. You set this up already? Evelyn didn't look at her. I've been setting this up for 6 months. As we pulled out of the driveway, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A new email alert flashed across the screen. Petition for emergency conservatorship filed by Mark D. Hill, Treasurer, First Baptist Church. Hearing scheduled for 8 a.m. tomorrow. I froze. Mom's phone buzzed right after. She read the same alert and her lips curved into a smile, cold, satisfied. Looks like someone else is on our side, she said softly. Evelyn caught my eye in the rearview mirror. Don't be so sure. The SUV sped into the darkness, streetlights streaking past like flashbulbs. The city waited ahead, but so did something else. Truth or destruction, maybe both. The blue folder lay on Evelyn's lap, glowing faintly under the dome light, as if it carried every secret my family had ever tried to bury. No one spoke for the rest of the drive. The only sound was the steady, relentless buzz of my phone, a reminder that the fight for Grandma's soul, her house, and her name had only just begun. We entered the bank just after 10 p.m., looking like 4 ghosts dragging our secrets through fluorescent light. The security guard didn't ask questions. One glance at Evelyn's badge, embossed with a law firm crest, and the night manager was already unlocking the vault. Everything about her presence commanded obedience. My parents trailed behind, silent, pale, trying to calculate how much damage they could still control. Grandma clutched my arm, trembling, her breath thin but steady. The air inside the vault was cold, sterile, the kind of cold that preserved not just documents but decades of truth. The metallic echo of our footsteps bounced off the walls as Evelyn pointed to a small silver box marked 119. Here it is, she said. The last place your mother could keep her life safe from vultures. The manager slid the box out, metal scraping against metal. The sound made my skin crawl. When he lifted the lid, time seemed to exhale. Inside lay a small ledger wrapped in twine, a USB drive, 2 dusty VHS tapes labeled Tape A and Tape B, and a velvet pouch tied shut. Evelyn laid each item on the table like evidence for a trial none of us were ready for. The ledger came first, yellowed pages filled with faded handwriting. Grandma's, unmistakably. Each line was a small act of faith. Deposits, interest payments, savings transfers. Her life in numbers. These, Evelyn said softly, flipping through the entries, are the breadcrumbs of a woman who never trusted banks or children who smiled too much when money's mentioned. I leaned in, scanning the last few entries. Small deposits labeled Willow Lot Rent, Trust Fund Transfer, Annual Yield. Grandma, I whispered, why didn't you tell us about any of this? She looked at the floor, ashamed but calm. Some people love you for free, she murmured. Others need to take inventory first. Evelyn nodded, almost approvingly. Then she turned to the USB drive. She plugged it into the bank computer and the screen glowed to life. 4 folders appeared: trust docs, healthcare directives, revocation letters, and ring exports. Ring exports? I clicked it open before she could stop me. My stomach dropped. There it was, tonight's footage. High definition, 1080p clarity, recorded from our own porch camera. My mother's hand crushing Grandma's cake, my father laughing, the trash lid slamming shut. The sound of betrayal was louder than any thunder. Impossible, Dad hissed. That camera's offline. Evelyn didn't even look at him. My investigator pulled your cloud backups before you deleted them. He's very good at his job. The night manager glanced at us nervously, as if he'd stumbled into a movie. Let's continue, Evelyn said, voice razor sharp. She clicked open revocation letters. A new document popped up. My heart stopped when I saw my name on the header, Revocation of Cosigner Authorization, if used without consent. I scanned the next few lines, my pulse hammering. They had used my name to open a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, against Grandma's property. Not once, twice. They forged my signature? I asked, my throat dry. Evelyn nodded grimly. And used your credit as collateral. You were technically the responsible borrower on their little real estate scheme. My stomach twisted. I remembered the random drop in my credit score last month, the unexplained calls from a loan officer. I thought it was a mistake. It wasn't. Before I could speak, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. A court alert. I unlocked it. A new emergency notice from the county website. Petition for emergency conservatorship filed by Mark D. Hill, Treasurer, First Baptist Church. Hearing 8 a.m. tomorrow. I showed it to Evelyn. Her eyes narrowed. They're accelerating the plan, she muttered. Your parents couldn't pull it off clean, so they brought in someone else. Grandma's voice cracked. Mark Hill. He's from our church. I gave him money when his roof collapsed. Evelyn scrolled through the document. He attached a physician's letter claiming you suffer from rapid cognitive decline and self-neglect. She stopped. This letter's signature, she zoomed in, belongs to a doctor who's been dead since 2021. Mom's voice wavered. That's not possible. Evelyn dialed her phone, speaking fast. Sheriff? It's Evelyn Hale. I'll need a deputy and APS standby at county court tomorrow morning. We've got forged medical documentation and financial exploitation in progress. She paused, eyes flicking toward my parents. Yes, they're still with me. Dad slammed his fist on the table. You can't prove anything. Evelyn didn't even raise her voice. I already have. She opened the velvet pouch and poured its contents onto the table. Out rolled a small key fob and a signet ring engraved with a hawthorn branch. She turned the ring over. This symbol matches the trust's emblem. It's proof of ownership. Your mother's house, the adjacent lot, and 10% of the strip mall on Willow all belong to the trust. You tried to sell them anyway, Mom paled. That's not true. Evelyn's gaze could have cut glass. You listed the property through Evergreen Realty last week. The agent you used? My firm's client. He flagged the sale when your power of attorney didn't check out. The silence that followed was suffocating. The truth sat heavy in the air like smoke after a fire. Grandma pressed a trembling hand to her chest, whispering, My home. My life. Evelyn put a hand on her shoulder. We'll protect it. But tomorrow, we end this. Just then, the vault door behind us groaned shut with a metallic clang. The night manager jumped, fumbling his keys. Relax, Evelyn said, though her tone had changed, tighter, cautious. The manager's radio crackled. Ma'am, came a voice from the front desk. We just got a system alert. There's another petition filed on this same trust account. Evelyn frowned. Filed by who? The voice stuttered. Submitted 40 minutes ago. From your address, the Hawthorne residence. Everyone went still, Evelyn's face drained of color. That's impossible! We've been here. The night manager swallowed hard. It's verified, ma'am. Whoever's in that house, they're using the credentials tied to box 119. Grandma clutched my arm tighter. Then who's in my house? The lights above us flickered once, a faint buzz running through the vault. And in that flicker of silence, every truth we'd uncovered suddenly felt smaller than the danger waiting back home. By sunrise, the courthouse steps looked like a Sunday scandal. Church people, board members, curious neighbors pretending not to stare and then doing it anyway. The air buzzed with whispers, the kind that wrap around you like static. Cameras flashed. The story had leaked overnight, and now everyone in Willow Creek wanted front row seats to the implosion of the Brooks family. Evelyn walked ahead of us, sharp and unshakable in her charcoal suit. My parents followed behind, silent, their confidence from last night replaced with dread. Grandma walked beside me, fragile but upright, clutching her rosary like a shield. The courthouse doors swung open and a bailiff's voice echoed through the marble hall. Case number 5417B. Petition for emergency conservatorship. Dorothy Hawthorne. We walked in as a family and sat down as enemies. Deacon Mark was already there, polished shoes, church lapel pin gleaming, voice rehearsed in righteousness. Your Honor, he began, smooth as oil. We're here today out of concern for Ms. Hawthorne's safety. Her declining condition and the mismanagement of her finances have become alarming to our congregation. He gestured piously toward my parents. Her children have been trying to do what's best. Evelyn rose slowly, her presence commanding the room. Your Honor, their concern appeared exactly 2 days after Ms. Hawthorne's home was listed on Zillow, without her knowledge or consent. The judge raised an eyebrow. Is that true? Deacon Mark cleared his throat, feigning confusion. That's a misunderstanding. Evelyn didn't waste a breath. She handed the judge a file. Here's the original doctor's letter Mr. Hill submitted claiming cognitive decline. And here, she said, sliding another sheet forward, is the physician's obituary. Same signature. The man's been dead for 2 years. A wave of murmurs rolled through the courtroom. The judge frowned, reading both papers twice. Mr. Hill, do you have an explanation for this? Deacon Mark's smile wavered. I was given that letter by Ms. Brooks. Mom's jaw tightened. That's absurd. But before she could go further, Evelyn stepped closer to the bench. Your Honor, we'd like to play a short clip. It's from the family's Ring camera, the evening before this petition was filed. The lights dimmed slightly as Evelyn hit play. The monitor flickered to life. There was Grandma's birthday table. The cake, the trash can. My father's voice saying, "It's for your own good," and my mother's crisp tone cutting through, "Assisted living tomorrow. We already signed." Then came the sound of the cake lid slamming shut. The gallery gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another murmured, "That poor woman." The judge's face hardened. That's enough, but Evelyn wasn't finished. She opened her folder again and laid out bank statements, line after line of withdrawals. Notice the pattern, Your Honor. Each church donation listed by Ms. Brooks and Mr. Brooks matches withdrawals from Ms. Hawthorne's pension. Same amounts. Same dates. The judge turned toward Deacon Mark. Explain this. Mark's voice cracked. We handle community funds. Charitable projects, mission work, Evelyn cut in. With a $70,000 balance funneled through your personal checking account? Silence. You could feel the audience holding its breath. Then, from the back of the courtroom, a new voice broke through. The HOA president, Mrs. Lyle, standing up without permission. Your Honor, I have emails. Elaine asked me if we could fast-track eviction optics to make it look like Dorothy was being relocated for safety reasons. The gallery erupted into murmurs again. The judge banged his gavel. Order! Sit down, Mrs. Lyle! But submit those emails into evidence. My parents looked cornered, pale and shaking. For the first time in my life, they didn't look like adults. They looked like two strangers caught in headlights. Evelyn stood tall. Your Honor, these actions, financial exploitation, falsified medical documents, and emotional coercion, constitute elder abuse under state statute. We request immediate freezing of assets and the voiding of this fraudulent petition. The judge leaned back, exhaling slowly. Request granted. Effective immediately, all accounts and property transfers involving Ms. Hawthorne are frozen. We'll schedule a forensic audit and potential criminal review. Gasps rippled again. My heart thudded with relief. We'd won, or so I thought. Then the judge turned his gaze to me. His tone softened, but somehow that made it worse. "Mr. Brooks," he said carefully, "why didn't you report this sooner? And why did you accept a $50,000 wire yesterday from a shell company tied to Ms. Hale's law firm?" The words hit like a punch. "What?" I stammered. "I didn't—" Evelyn's head snapped toward me, her expression unreadable. Mom's lips curled into the faintest smile, venomous. "Looks like someone's not that innocent after all," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Maybe he's been playing both sides," whispers erupted behind me. I felt a dozen eyes burning into my back. My mind spun. $50,000? A shell company? I'd never even seen that kind of money. The judge tapped his pen. "Do you deny receiving the funds?" "Yes," I said, voice cracking. "I don't even know—" But then Evelyn spoke, calm, icy. "Your Honor," she said, "I can explain." I looked at her desperately, but she didn't meet my eyes. She didn't defend me, not yet. Instead, she picked up one of the old VHS tapes from the folder. The label in faded marker read Tape B. "The answer," she said, "is in Box 119, Tape B." The judge tilted his head. "What's on it?" Evelyn closed her briefcase with a soft click. "Proof," she said. "About who really betrayed whom." A chill went through me. Grandma's hand gripped mine under the table. The judge nodded slowly. "Then we'll watch it. Right here, right now." Every camera in the courtroom swung toward us. The bailiff wheeled in an old TV and VCR, the kind that belonged in a school basement. The crowd leaned forward. My heart raced so loud I could barely hear the gavel strike. As the bailiff inserted the tape, Evelyn folded her arms and stared straight ahead. My parents whispered furiously behind me. The screen filled with static, and as the first flicker of footage appeared, I realized this was no longer just about Grandma's house. It was about every lie we'd ever lived, and the one that was about to destroy us all. The bailiff rolled in a dust-covered VHS player like a relic dragged from the ruins of truth itself. The courtroom was dead silent, the air so tense you could feel hearts beating in unison. Evelyn slipped Tape B into the machine. The screen crackled to life, static, snow, and then fire. The footage opened on a dim, smoke-choked corridor of a cheap motel, time-stamped 1978. Flames licked the walls as a man shouted for help, kicking at a door. Through the chaos came a young woman, hair tied back, face streaked with ash, eyes fierce with purpose. My breath caught. It was Grandma, decades younger, sprinting through smoke with a child wrapped in a blanket. The camera shook violently as she carried the coughing girl out into the cold night air, collapsing near an ambulance. The lens zoomed in on the child's arm, a small burn scar curling around her wrist like a crescent moon. The scene cut to a hospital room. The child slept, bandaged and fragile. A woman stood nearby, wild-eyed, trembling, her clothes dirty, her hands twitching. She signed a release form, shoved the pen away, and fled down the corridor. The camera lingered on the door as Grandma entered, sat beside the child and whispered softly, "I'll find you when it matters." Then the tape ended with a click. Evelyn stood before the screen, eyes glistening in the flicker of static. She slowly rolled back her sleeve. There, faint but unmistakable, was the same crescent-shaped burn scar on her wrist. "It mattered last night," she said quietly. The courtroom rippled with shock. Whispers, gasps, disbelief, all of it crashing together like a wave. Grandma's hands flew to her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. You were that little girl," she whispered. Evelyn nodded. "You saved my life, and now I'm returning the favor." Mom broke the silence with a scoff, her voice sharp as shattered glass. "Touching story. But what about the 50 grand you wired to my son? That's bribery, isn't it?" Evelyn didn't flinch. She turned to me calmly. "I sent that wire at 4 p.m. yesterday with one note attached. Return if you won't betray Dorothy. Your bank automatically rejected it at 4:01. You never touched a cent." A collective sigh passed through the courtroom, the sound of an audience realizing who the villain truly was. My chest unclenched, but my mother's fury ignited like a fuse. "This is a setup," she screamed. "You're all against us. You think you can rewrite history because of some tape? Evelyn reached into her briefcase and placed a sealed envelope on the table. Its edges were yellowed, the handwriting shaky but familiar. "Dorothy's final letter," she said. "Recorded 5 years ago. It activates if Martin or Elaine file any petition against her." The judge leaned forward. "Let's see it." My hands trembled as I slid my thumb beneath the flap. Inside was a handwritten note, not from Grandma, but from my late grandfather, the man I'd only known through photographs and stories. His penmanship wavered across the page. "Elaine and Martin are not my biological children. We took them in at 12 when their father, a traveling con artist, disappeared. We loved them as our own. But if they ever turn on Dorothy, invoke the no contest clause. They inherit nothing." My mother's face drained of color. "Lies," she shouted. "He was senile when he wrote that. He didn't even know what he was signing." The judge pounded his gavel. "Enough!" 2 deputies moved forward. One took Deacon Mark by the elbow, his phone still buzzing on the table. Another positioned himself beside my father, whose composure had cracked entirely. His hands twitched as if searching for an excuse that didn't exist. Evelyn's voice softened as she looked at Grandma. "Dorothy, your trust remains intact, but you can do more than just survive this. You can protect others from families like yours." She smiled faintly. "We'll turn the Hawthorne Trust into a foundation, housing, legal defense, elder protection. And as for the director," she turned toward me, "if you're ready to do the right thing, it's yours." My throat tightened. "Me?" She nodded. "You've already proven you won't stand silent in the face of wrong. That's the only qualification that matters." I looked at Grandma. Her frail hand reached for mine, trembling but strong. "Take it," she whispered. "Make it mean something." "I will," I said, voice shaking. "I promise." The gavel struck again, finalizing the decision. The courtroom buzzed with applause and murmurs, the kind of collective relief that feels like dawn after a long, merciless night. Deputies led my parents away. Deacon Mark avoided my eyes as they cuffed him. Just as the judge began to rise, the courtroom doors burst open. A woman in her 50s stumbled in, clutching a weathered manila envelope. Her coat was frayed, her hair streaked with gray, her eyes wide with exhaustion, and something hauntingly familiar. "I'm sorry," she gasped, voice trembling. "I saw the news. I'm Rose, your aunt. He hid me from you all. I have the other will." A murmur swept through the room again. Grandma went rigid, her eyes locked on the stranger. "Rose," she whispered, barely believing. The woman nodded through tears. "He made me promise not to come forward unless they turned against you. He said this will would fix everything." She held up the envelope. "It's yours." Evelyn approached carefully, taking the document with reverence. She didn't open it. Instead, she turned to Grandma. "Your Honor," she said, her voice steady but charged with something electric. "We request a brief recess, because this next document changes everything you think you know about the Hawthorne family." The judge nodded slowly, stunned. "Granted." As the courtroom dissolved into whispers again, Grandma turned to me. For the first time in years, her eyes didn't look tired. They looked alive. Evelyn placed the unopened envelope in my hands. "Whatever's inside," she said, "you'll be the one to read it first." And for a moment, all the noise faded. Not fear. Not rage. Not grief. Just a single, breathtaking silence, the kind that comes before the truth. Because after decades of lies, betrayals, and buried legacies, one thing had become painfully clear. The real story of our family hadn't ended. It was just beginning.